Hi guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this week's ukulele lesson, we're going to be learning Hanukkah, Oh Hanukkah. So first off, I got to give props to AJ for writing an awesome sounding arrangement, and as I've been working on it, two things have come to mind. So the first thing is, I think this piece is perfect for the intermediate fingerstyle player. Now, if you're wondering how I define the beginner, intermediate, and advanced player, click this link to find out. Now, the second thing that kind of has dawned on me, so to speak, is that this arrangement can be interpreted many different ways. A lot of times when we hear this song being performed, it's performed at a quick tempo, but I think this arrangement sounds equally as great at a slower tempo. Now, in addition to that, I'm going to be sharing with you guys one tip that you can implement into your playing today that can create a drastic change in the tonal landscape. So you're going to learn, in essence, how to add a lot of texture to your playing. So keep that thought in mind. I'm going to break it down and explain it at the start of this lesson, but let's talk about the lesson in and of itself real quick. So in this video, we're going to be learning the entire song. Now, if you want to get the tabs to print out and follow along with, you can do so by clicking this link right here or going to the site rockclass101.com and doing a search for Hanukkah, Oh Hanukkah. Now, also on that page will be the on-screen tab viewer. So this is a really great feature where you can hit play, you can watch the tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down to any speed you wish, just a great asset for learning this song that much easier. Alright, so as we get ready to jump into this lesson, there's a couple things we want to cover really quick. The first one is that it is a low G arrangement, so grab the low G ukulele. And the second thing I want to talk about is the right hand. So what are we doing for the right hand approach? Well, this song can be interpreted many different ways. You can use a 4-finger approach where thumb gets string 4, index is string 3, middle is string 2, ring is string 1. Or what I tend to favor is a 3-finger approach. So thumb would get 4 and 3, index is string 2, middle is string 1. Although instead of these 3 fingers, I like to switch it up and use these 3. It's the same thing. Thumb gets 4 and 3, middle would get string 2, ring would get string number 1. Now, a lot of times throughout this tune, I'm going to be utilizing a piccato approach. And actually, if we look at measure number 1 right here, I'll put the tab up, you can see that the first half of this bar has a line of single notes all on the A string. So anytime you see something like that, instead of going, right, using one finger for everything, I can instead alternate pick. That's all piccato means, is to go second, first, second, first. So that's basically it. So it is a very efficient way to play single notes that all appear on the same string. So anytime you see something like that, I can utilize the piccato picking. Now, if you're new to that and you want a greater explanation of the mechanics behind the right hand, then check out this lesson. It's called La Gitanita. That lesson is going to teach piccato, but it's also going to teach another technique, which is called rasguiado, which is this 4-finger barrel roll strum, which we're about to talk about. So in the beginning of this intro, I mentioned a way that you can change the tonal landscape of your playing. And what exactly does that mean? Well, if we look at this first measure, look at the first and the third beat. You can see that those are a chord. So that is going to be the basic layout of this entire arrangement. Like 95 or more percent of this arrangement is going to go a chord on beat 1, followed by single notes, and then a chord on beat 3, followed by single notes. That's the basic form of this arrangement. So for beat 1 and beat 3, you can change your attack, and utilizing different attacks creates different tonal coloring. So let's take a listen to what that means. If I play this first bar, if I utilize that rasguiado strum that I mentioned just a little bit ago, it's a 4-finger barrel strum. It creates a giant cascade of sound. That sounds a lot more in your face than if I was to do a simple strum of the thumb going down. That is a soft, sweet sound. So the music sounds very different depending on the strum attack that you use. So anytime you see that little squiggly line on that first hit, you can do that raschiato strum, or you could do what AJ likes to do, which is an arpeggiated roll. So basically AJ is going 4, 3, 2, 1. He's doing a finger-picked roll, but you have to play it in rapid succession. And that's what's going to give you that sound that he gets, which sounds like that. So if I use his attack, it sounds like that. Or if I use the raschiato attack, it sounds like that. Two completely different sounds. Now, another suggestion is to do just a strum down with the nail of the index finger. That gives you a bright pop in the sound. And we mentioned earlier the thumb, which is soft, sweet sound. And of course, another option is to just pluck it. And the pluck has its sound that's unique in and of itself, and it harkens more so on that strum. It's a softer, sweeter sound. Now, as we go through this arrangement, we're going to be learning it 4 bars at a time. Think of that as a section. So the first 4 bars can be thought of as the first section of the tune. The next 4 bars can be thought of as the second section of the tune. So as you learn this song, you want to be thinking about the attack that you're using for beat 1 and 3 as it relates to the sections. So what does that mean? Well, if I play through the first 4 bars, I'm going to use these stronger attacks. I'm going to use the raschiato strums and maybe some down strums with the index finger, the nail of the index finger. I'm going to have a more in-your-face kind of sound. And then when I get into the next 4 bars, bars 5, 6, 7, 8, I'm going to revert to a plucked attack for beat 1 and 3. And that's going to give me a softer overall sound for the second 4-bar phrase. So let's take a listen to what that sounds like. That actually completes verse number 1. So this is the A section for us. Verse number 1 is the first 8 bars. So keep that in mind. I'm going to have a stronger attack for the first 4 bars, a softer attack for the next 4 bars, and it's going to give me a beautiful tonal texture to my playing. So it sounds like this. So you can hear we just had a lot more oomph in the first half and a lot less in the second half. So as you work through this piece, you keep in mind there's no right or wrong. So experiment, try different attacks and pick what feels the best for your playing and also what you think sounds the best. So take it and make it your own. Now, as I teach you this tune, I'm pretty much going to just stick with probably just basic stuff, like just basic down strums, just to keep it simple so we can focus on what the left hand is doing, because that's going to be the most work throughout this piece as we learn it. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it. So the first measure by itself sounds like this. So the first thing we can notice is that it's all eighth notes, so we want to keep the timing going steady. Each note lasts the same duration. So we're kicking off with the stock D minor chord. So go ahead and make the stock D minor. And again, it's up to you on how you want to do the attack. You can do that raschiato strum. You can do the arpeggiated strum, which actually, we taught the arpeggiated strum in this finger-picking etude. And it's actually an etude AJ wrote. So if you want a greater breakdown on how to do his technique, it's really cool. Check out that etude. Now, we're going to start with just strumming that first hit for the D minor. Then I'm going to revert to the piccato picking, and I'm going to play 3 open A's after that. So I have strum, A. Okay, now after this, we have a little bit of a tricky chord change. So lift the ring finger up, we don't need it anymore. We're going to drop the middle finger down to the 2nd fret of string 3, And with your pinky, I want you to stretch to the 5th fret of string number 1. So this is a bit of a tricky stretch chord. So I'm going to link in the description box below a lesson on increasing your left hand reach. It has 3 exercises that help increase the span of your left hand. So if you need a little bit of help with stretch chords, or if you were playing any kind of stretch licks or stretch phrases, that lesson is going to help tremendously. So back to this chord. So there's variation on the D minor. So we have 2, 1, and 5 ignoring string number 4. So again, I'm going to strum from the 3rd string down for this. I'm going to lift up the pinky finger, play the open A, then play string 2, and then string 3. So I have strum, lift up the pinky, open A, 2nd string, 3rd string. So if we try just that second half by itself, starting on beat 3, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. Nice. And if we try the entire measure together, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. Awesome. Now going into measure number 2, it's going to sound like this. Watch this middle finger. It stays anchored on the 2nd fret of string 3. So when you're transitioning from the last chord in measure number 1, which is that D minor with the stretch, the easy way to go into this first chord for bar number 2 is to keep the middle finger where it's at. Lift the pinky and the index. We don't need it. We're going to take the ring finger, put it on the 3rd fret of string 2, and the index finger drops down to the 1st fret of string 1. And of course, this is our stock G minor. I'm sure many of us have played it, so the G string is open. So we're going to start this one off with a strum, and then string 4, open, lift the index up, play the open A, and then string 2. So I have strum, 4, open A, string 2. So all 8th notes. So we have, okay, let's give it a shot. 3, 4. Nice. Then we're going to revert back to the stock D minor. And for this one, you can see the first hit is going to be a quarter note. So let that ring out twice as long. So we have 3, 4, and. So we're going to go strum, string 3, string 2. So let's try that together, starting on beat 3. 1, 2. Nice. And if we try that entire measure together, we have 3, 4. Awesome. So let's do this. Let's backtrack. Let's try 1 into 2. So here we go. 3, 4. Sweet. And if that's a little bit fast, you can always use those YouTube slow down control settings. So you can slow it down to 90%, 80%. But again, if you're a premium member on rockclass101.com, you can use that on-screen tab here where you can highlight bars and loop sections and slow it down to any speed, any incremental speed. So if you need 87% speed, you're good to go. Now here's the cool thing, guys. Measure 1 and 2 is actually repeated. So measure 3 and 4 is identical to it. So you're literally just playing those 2 bars again, back to back. So let's skip over that and let's take a look at the second phrase. So measures 5 through 8. So measure 5 is going to sound like this. And for my suggestion for the attack for your right hand, I would go into plucking for all of this. So these next 4 bars just pluck on beat 1 and 3. So here's what the 5th measure sounds like. Okay, so we're starting out of the D minor, just the stock D minor. I'm going to pluck 4, 3, and 2. I'm going to use my pinky to play the 3rd fret of string 2, then the open A, and then back to the 3rd fret of string 2. So I have pluck 3, oh 3. Okay, now to finish it up, we're going to lift the pinky up, we're going to pluck the chord again, and notice that it's a quarter note. So hold it twice as long, and then play the 3rd and the 2nd string. So for the second half, you have 3, 4, and. Okay, if we put that bar together, sounds like that. Let's give it a shot. 3, 4. Nice. So going into our next bar, the 6th bar, we're going to be transitioning down to a G5. So what you want to do is take the index finger, lift it up, we don't need it. We're going to take both of these fingers and move them in unison. I want you to move the middle finger to the 2nd fret of string 3 and the ring finger to the 3rd fret of string 2. Our G string will be open, so we're ignoring string number 1. So for this measure, it's going to sound like, okay, but practice that transition. It's a little tricky, so you just want to hit pause on this video and you want to go from G minor to G5. You can always put these chord transitions into some kind of time frame for building muscle memory. So for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. It's a great way to practice building muscle memory. So start with the G5. We're going to pluck 4, 3, and 2. Then we're going to hit the open G, and then I want you to lift the ring finger up, put the index on the 1st fret of string 2, play that note, and then lift it up, play the open E. Rhythmically, all eighths, 1 and 2 and... So let's try that. 3, 4. Nice. Go back to the D minor, so middle finger goes up, the other two come down, pluck. Now this one is a dotted quarter, so we're holding for a beat and a half. So you want to be counting 3 and 4. Then on the end of 4, you're going to play string 2. So you have 3 and 4 and. Okay? So let's see if we can try that measure together. 3 and 4 and. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Nice. And a little bit faster. 3 and 4 and. Nice. So let's backtrack. Let's try 5 into 6. 3 and 4 and. Cool. Now, as we go into the next couple measures, there's something that we're going to notice. Let me play measure 7. What do you notice? It's identical to measure number 5. Let me play measure 8. It's identical except for one tiny note that's omitted. If you look at beat number 3, you can see that when you pluck that chord, you're only plucking 2 of the notes. You're plucking string 4 and 3 instead of 4, 3, and 2. So we already know bar 7 and 8, basically, they're pretty much the same thing. So let's try this. Let's try and play the entire verse. I think we can go through the entire thing. So let's see if we can go 1 through 8. So here we go. Slow. 3, 4. That's the basic gist. So when you get to this point, this is where you really want to be thinking about how you're playing it. So go back and think about how you want to accent 1 on 3, 1 and 3, not 1 on 3. How you want to accent 1 and 3, and you also want to think of it in phrases, right? So in the beginning, I played the first 4 bars with a lot of the more in-your-face kind of attacks, so to speak, and then the second phrase, bars 5 through 8, I played with plucking for the soft, subtle approach. So I had pop for the first 4 bars and soft, subtle for the next 4 bars. And that gave a really cool overall texture. So again, think about how you want to play it and take it and make it your own. That's the fun part of music. Music is up to you. You're the interpreter. So as we jump into the next section, we're going into verse number 2. Now here's the thing, verse number 2 is actually 4 bars longer than verse number 1. So we have 12 bars for this section. So let me go ahead and start out with just playing the first measure, and then we'll break it down. So it sounds like this. Okay, so you can see for this one, I've got a different rhythm to start out with. And if you look at the little markings that I have, we've got a down strum. So that little symbol that looks like that, that just means to do a down strum. And then we're following it up with the squiggly line. So my suggestion is to start this one off, make the D minor, do a basic down strum, and then something that pops after it. So you can do like that Raschiato strum. So you have 1, 2. So something to pop and just, start this section off with some energy. Now you finish that up with 3 and 4 and just plucking out of that chord. So we're going 4, 3, 2, 3. So let's see if we can try that. So we have 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. Okay? If you look at measure 10, it's the same thing. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. So identical bar. If we go into measure number 11, if we look at this, we're going from D minor to G minor. So this measure sounds like this. So we're starting off with the D minor, and that's where we left off. The previous couple bars played out of the D minor, so our fingers are already in place. So we're going to start with a strum, then walk our way down. 3rd string, 2nd string, 1st string. At this point, switch to the G minor, and we're going to do a strum, then string 2, lift the index up, play the open A, and then back to string 2. So we have strum, 3, 2, 1, strum, 2, open A, string 2. So very easy bar. So let's give that one a shot. 3 and 4 and. Nice. Now as we go into our 12th measure, it's going to sound like this. We're introducing a new chord. So we're going to be playing out of a couple versions of A7. So here's the thing. We want to think about where we left off. We left off on that G minor. So all we have to do to play this A7 sus4 is take the index finger, move it to the 2nd fret of string 4. So it goes on top of the middle finger. You're going to strum 4 down. That's going to be the new chord voicing. So we're going to go strum, then play 3, 2, 1, and then switch it to A7. So these two fingers, they're going to flip-flop, but something happens. So index lifts up and middle lifts up. Middle goes where the index was, 2nd fret of string 4. Index goes down on the 1st fret of string 3. So the fingers flip-flop, but they're moving in this diagonal direction, right? So you just want to practice that transition. Not super hard at all. But for this basic A7, we're just going to strum it and hold it out for the remainder of the bar. So we have strum, 3, 2, 1, strum. Okay? So let's try that measure together. 3, 4, strum, and 2, and strum. Nice. Now if we backtrack, let's try the 11th into the 12th measure. So it starts with the D minor to G minor, then to our A7 chords. Here we go. 3 and 4 and. Okay, and if we backtrack again, let's go 9 through 12. So we're going to go through this entire first section of verse 2. So here we go. 3, 4. Nice. Now let's jump into our next set of 4. So this is measure number 13. So this one, we're going to be going D minor to G minor. And what we're going to see is that measure 13 is identical to measure 14. So learn it once, you've got it twice. So start with the D minor. We're going to strum. We're going to go 3, 2, 1 after that. Switch to G minor, strum, hit the open G, then lift the index up, play the open A, and then string 2. So you have strum, 3, 2, 1, strum, 4, open A, second string. So very simple. It's a slight variation. One note is different from that 11th measure that we played. It's the end of 3 is an open G. That's the only difference from the 11th measure. So that's why we're kind of breezing through this one. But let's try it, and let's actually play it twice, because 13 and 14 are identical. So let's do it 2 times in a row. 3 and 4 and... Nice. So as we go into 15, it's going to sound like this. Okay, so kind of a cool little walk up in the melody. So start with the D minor. We're going to pluck 4, 3, and 2, hold it for a quarter, then play string 3, string 2, then switch to the G5, pluck 4, 3, and 2, lift the ring up, put the index on the first fret of string 2, play that note, and then the 3rd fret. So you have 1, 2, and 3, 4, and... Let's give it a shot. 3, 4. Nice. Now, the next measure, switching to A7, so remember that index comes up top. We're going to strum and then walk our way down. 3, 2, 1, switch to A7. And what do you notice? This is an identical bar to measure number 12. So we know this measure already. So let's backtrack. Let's try 15 going into 16. So we have 3, 4. Cool. And if we try those 4 measures together, 13 through 16, here we go. 3, 4. Pretty cool, right? So now we have the extra set of 4 bars to complete the verse number 2. Now, to switch it up a little bit, we're going to do a bit of strumming. So we're just going to start this measure off with down and up strumming. And as you saw in the previous set of 4, the first measure, so measure 17, will be identical to measure 18. So learn it once, you got it twice. So here's what 17 sounds like. Okay, so make the D minor. We're just going to go down, up. So just a strumming of 8th notes. Now, you can look at the last up hit, the end of 2. If you really want to highlight that melody, try to do an up strum that just hits string number 1. So you're going to go down across all 4, up across all 4, down across all 4. And when you come up, try to hit just string 1 for the last one. So down, up. Just to highlight that melody note that much more. So after that, if you look at the second half, you go to G minor. It's the same phrases that we played in measure 13 and 14. So it's strum, 4, lift up, open A, string 2. So that's identical. So if we put it together, we have... Okay, let's give that one a shot. 3, 4... Nice. And remember, 18 is the exact same measure. So 2 times in a row. So let's jump to 19, and we're going to include 20 in this. So let me play 19 into 20, and that'll give you a context of what these last 2 bars sound like. So it's basically going from a higher voicing of a D minor to a little change in the G minor chord. So let's start with the first one. So we have D minor, which is going to be a partial bar. So lay flat on the 5th fret, strings 1, 2, and 3. Now, anytime you're playing bar chords, it's really important that you have proper form. And proper form is not only what's happening in front of the neck, it's also what's happening behind the neck. So you see this U-shaped gap right here. The thumb is placed slightly above the middle of the neck. All of that is vital to building finger strength to get these notes to ring out clear with bar chords or partial bar chords. Partial bar chord just means we're not covering all 4 strings. So if you need a recap on proper left hand form, I'll put a link in the description box below to our video and article lesson on it. Very, very useful to know. Now with this D minor, again, lay flat on the 5th fret, strings 1, 2, and 3. So we can pluck this one, and we're just going to walk a melody up on string 1. So it's going to be ring playing 7, and then pinky playing 8. 1, 2, and... Okay, so move this bar up a whole step. So you're going to go to the 7th fret. Put the ring finger down on 9 on string 2, and pinky 10 on string 1. And you can pluck this. This is a G with a flat 5. It's got a lot of dissonance, so it's kind of a... this is kind of like the climax of the verses, and we really want it just to have a big resolution. So that's why you're hearing so much, a bit of dissonance in that. Because it kind of comes back and resolves, especially once we go into the chorus, and the chorus is really cool sounding. So for this one, let's just practice that first part. So we have flat on 5, 7, 8, then move up a whole step to 7, put the other 2 fingers down, so 9 on string 2, pinky is 10 on string 1, pluck. Now at this point, what you're going to do is lift the pinky up, put the middle finger on 8 on string 1, and then lift that up and play what you have barred, which is 7. So that's why I wanted you guys to move that bar up instead of doing on a fingertip like that. So together you have pluck, 7, 8, pluck, 8, 7. So you may want to hit pause and just practice that one. It's probably one of the trickiest bars in the tune. But let's see if we can do it together. 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and... Going into the last measure, go back to flat on 5, pluck it. Hold it for 1, 2, and 3, and on beat 4, we have the open A. That open A is going to buy you time to move your hand down to the beginning of the neck to start off the chorus. But before we focus on the chorus, let's go back and let's backtrack to the last 4 bars. So 17, 18, 19, 20. So here we go. 3, 4. Okay, so that's a basic gist of the last section. So now we'll go ahead and cycle through the entire 12 bars, and that'll give us the context of what verse 2 sounds like in its entirety. So kicking off, here we go. 3, 4. So that's a basic gist of it. Now, I just played it pretty much just straightforward, but again, you really want to think about how you're playing it. So you really want to think about, this kind of accent, starting out with maybe soft, strong, soft, strong, soft, 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 strong, 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 soft, strong. Something like that. Just take it through and try and kind of experiment a little bit with where you want it to be stronger, where you want it to be softer, and what accent you want to utilize. And, just think about what adds to the music, what makes it sound, what makes the performance come alive, right? Because if you remember, if you play it all the way through, right, it's very stagnant, it's very, vanilla. So spend a little bit of time thinking about how you want to play it. Now let's go ahead and jump into our last section, and that's going to be our chorus. And the chorus is really cool because we have a bit more happening with the chord progressions. So we've got a couple of new chords that are thrown into the mix and just helps to add a new element to the music. So let's do this. Let me play just the first measure, then we'll break it down and learn it. Okay, so first thing we notice, all eighth notes. Now for the chorus, I think it's really cool to keep a soft feel overall. So I'm just gonna pluck everything for the most part. I think there's like 1 or 2 strums in here, but for the most part, I'm just gonna pluck everything. So we're starting off with that stretch of the D minor. So go ahead and pluck that, then play straight out of it. 3, 2, 1, lift the pinky up, and we have second, first, open A. So it's basically the stock D minor, but the middle finger is leading us and no string 4. So again, pluck, 3, 2, 1. So same little walk down movement. So pluck, 3, 2, 1, pluck, 3, 2, 1. Very simple, let's give it a shot. 3, 4. Nice. So keep the middle finger where it's at. Now as we go into the next measure, which is G minor, we're going to be forming it with a different fingering. So instead of doing the stock G minor with the third and the first, what we're going to do is instead of using the third, we're going to sub it out for our pinky. Because as I play this measure, look at what the ring finger does. We're going to need it for the top string. So check it out. So you can see that it goes up top to the 3rd fret of string 4. So first off, if we backtrack and we think about where we left off, we played D minor 1 to D, the variation on D minor. At this point, you're going to drop the index finger down and put the pinky down on the 3rd fret of string 2. So for this measure, strum, 3, 2, 1, then take the ring, put it on the 3rd fret of string 4, keeping every other finger held down. Play straight down, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the big takeaway is you don't have to do all 4 fingers at the get-go. You add the ring finger when the music calls for it, so that's on beat 3. So again, if I cycle through those 2 measures, watch that ring finger. Gets added when I need it, and that's what makes this a lot easier to play. You don't have to make the entire chord at the get-go. Okay, so let's try just that G minor measure by itself. So here we go, 3, 4. Okay, if we backtrack, let's try 21 into 22. 3, 4. Nice. Now at this point, what you're going to do is you're going to lift every finger up and move the pinky finger directly down. This is our stock C chord, right? But again, we're thinking about what's the easiest way to transition from that G minor that we just played with a different fingering to the C chord. And the easiest way is just to lift everything up, drop the pinky down. So pinky's on the 3rd fret of string 1, stock C minor, and we're just going to do pluck it or strum. I mean, it's really up to you again, guys. But for this one, I'm just going to pluck, then walk straight down. 3, 2, 1. At this point, we're going to C5, so take that ring finger, put it on top of the pinky, and we have open, open, 3rd. So we're going to pluck that, and then walk straight down. 4, 3, 2. So a very easy measure, right? So pinky, pluck, 3, 2, 1, C5, 4, 3, 2. Let's give that one a shot. 3, 4. Nice. Now going into our next measure, F to A7. So super simple stuff for here. Pluck the F, then we're going to go 3, 2, 1. and then switch to the A7. And we can strum this one and then hit the open A. And look at the rhythm. You have 3, 4, so double quarter note to end it. Okay, so let's give it a shot. 3, 4. Nice. If we backtrack, let's try 23 into 24. So starting with the pinky. 3, 4. Okay, and the entire 4-bar section. Here we go. 3, 4. Really cool. Sounds very beautiful. Now as we go into our final home run stretch, last 4 measures, 25 is the same as 21. So all that is identical. Now here's the interesting thing. The next measure, as we saw throughout the verse number 2, is identical as well. Okay, so you're doing everything all the same. Now I will give you one suggestion once we learn the next couple bars. We're going to backtrack. I'm going to give you one alternative fingering suggestion, but we'll hold on to that thought for a second. So let's go into 27 and then we'll talk about 28. So last 2 measures. So 27 starts with the A7. So just the stock A7 we've done before. Strum, lift the ring up, open, open, and then put the pinky down on the 4th fret of string 1. Strum, and then lift up, open A. So this measure together sounds like that. Let's give it a shot. 3, 4, strum, oh, oh, strum, oh. Okay, now the last chord in this tune, it's a little bit tricky. It's a D minor with an added 9. So to form this chord, take the index, put it on 2nd fret of string 4. Ring is on 5 on string 3. Open E. That gives us our 9. And then pinky's 5 on string 1. Okay, that's our last hit. That's a hard chord, so you want to practice that transition. There's really no trick to it. Every finger needs to lift up and then reposition in unison to the last D minor. Okay, so if we backtrack a second, I think 26 going into 27 using this fingering is very difficult to do, okay? So if you're using this fingering with the pinky for the G minor, when you go into 27, I would probably just ignore string number 4 and just strum 3 down. That'll be so much easier to do, okay? Now, an alternative fingering, if you want to include that bass note for 27, is this. Let's go back to the G minor. Make it like the standard G minor. And as you play through it, watch my thumb. You can see that I'm playing that bass note with my thumb. I'm hugging the neck, literally hugging the neck to be able to do this. So strum, 3, 2, 1, thumb, hugging the neck, 4, 3, 2, 1. That way when I transition to 27, those 3 fingers lift up, but the ring remains, and I go to A7. Pinky to the last chord. And if you want to make the last chord easier, you can just do that bar of the D minor as well. So if you think that's a little bit too hard, you can end just the stock bar D minor. But that thumb reach around makes it easier to grab 27 with these fingers. Okay, so either or works, just experiment with it, figure out what works best for your playing style. Now let's do this, let's try the last 4 bars in its entirety, 25 through 28. 3, 4. Okay, so that's the basic gist of what it sounds like. If we backtrack the entire 8 bars for the chorus, here we go. 3, 4. And that last chord, if you want, you can do a slow arpeggiation like that. It gives it a lot of character, sounds really cool. You can even add a little retardando on 27 and 28. Da, ba, 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 da, da. Right? So if you want to have kind of a more exaggerated ending, you can add a little bit of retardando. But that's basically it, guys. That's the entire tune. Now, this song is usually performed 2 times through, so if you want to make it longer, just go back and play the entire thing again. And obviously don't add a retardando there. Add it the second time at the second ending. But yeah, that's basically it, guys. A lot of fun to play, a great intermediate level, some challenging stretch chords here and there, a couple challenging fingerings for other chords. Just a good challenge overall for the intermediate player. But I think the big takeaway was experimenting with different ways to create that coloring, that texture in our playing by changing the attack on beat 1 and 3. So I think that was a real big key takeaway of this arrangement. So guys, again, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I want to remind you that if you want to get the tabs to print off Keep for Your Records, that was available at this link, or you can go to the site rockclass101.com and do a search for Hanukkah, oh Hanukkah. Don't forget, on that page is the really cool interactive tab player, so you can hit play, watch that tab scroll across in real time, highlight bars, loop sections, slow it down, all that fun jazz. So guys, again, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and we'll see you in the next one, and have a very happy Hanukkah.